Alright everyone, it's Monday, and as is I think the Monday custom now, we've got an absolutely jam-packed video for you, so much to fit in. I'm kind of dreading the edit, but it'll be good when it all comes out. We are going to be looking back on whatever the hell that was on Saturday at Hampden Park, trying to come to conclusions, discussing various VAR incidents. We'll then take a look at what's to come for Celtic between now and the end of the season, and spoiler, some pretty big games and real opportunities for the team to make some more history. We'll also hear from Stevie. We'll hear from Joe Hart as well at a special event that was held at Celtic Park last night, and a few more things as well. So if you can put up with this slightly croaky voice today, I've got a bit of a cold coming on, all good, and let's get to it. By the way, we are now extremely close to 6,000 subscribers, so if you're watching the videos, enjoying the videos, and you want to thank me in some way that doesn't cost you a penny, please consider subscribing to the channel. As I say, it's free and really helps me to grow this thing and find more Celtic fans like you. Thank you. Right, okay, let's try and discuss the weekend. We had 6 goals. Good goals, strange goals, defensive gaffes. We had VAR refereeing drama, late Celtic goals conceded, a nail-biting finish. It was almost like a certain match we had a fortnight ago that also finished 3-3. It also reminded me, Hampden-wise, of the 2020 Scottish Cup final, the one with no fans, where we beat Hearts on penalties to secure the quadruple treble. That was after a 3-3 draw as well. So real similarities in those games. How do you even try and sum up what happened on the pitch? It was clearly, a below par Celtic performance. There were bits of real quality in there, like James Forrest's goal, Matt O'Reilly's goal, other moments when, even if it wasn't real quality, it was players doing things that we love them for, like Kyogo chasing down Angus MacDonald for that opening goal, Joe Hart making some big saves. So there were good things in there, but I think mainly it was a match where Celtic were pretty daft. And examples of us being daft in the game, conceding identical late goals at the end of normal time, at the end of extra time. Even some of the penalty stuff was maybe a little bit daft, but we can come on to that. My overall kind of assessment of it is that clearly it was a kind of poor performance generally. Celtic can play a lot better than that, and I think there's probably a lot of people watching this concerned about certain things that they saw in the game. Liam Scales is someone I've seen mentioned. Personally, he's someone I'd be looking for us to upgrade on next season. Greg Taylor, possibly another one. I think we've got some players playing who aren't good enough for Celtic right at this moment, or maybe just not at all. Again, people like Yang, I think, really kind of struggling at the moment. People I don't necessarily want us to be relying on next season. And that's not like a kind of rush judgment that I've come to just based off of Saturday. These are opinions that a lot of us have had based on the whole season, or in some players' cases, multiple seasons. And I think, that's absolutely fine. Those feelings are justified, and as I say, I agree with a lot of them. For me, these are issues that can be addressed in the summer. I think for now, what I'm looking at between now and the end of the season is just accepting that this Celtic team is not, what they were last season. I don't think anyone would really argue that this current team is playing, at the same level as we were last season. We were pretty much perfect last season. It was pretty much a perfect season. This has obviously been far from a perfect season this year, and it's not going to get perfect between now and the end of the campaign. I think we're probably going to get more matches like the weekend between now and the end of the season. But my overall feeling is just to kind of embrace it. You know that fan chant? I think the Green Brigade got it going a couple of weeks ago, and you hear it at every game now. Don't worry, be happy. And as kind of cliched as it sounds, and all of that stuff, it kind of sums up how I feel about this team at the moment. I think there's loads of things to be picked at regarding this team, loads of things maybe you could be worried about going forward that we have to work on, but for me right now it is a case of just kind of parking that to an extent. I think most of these are issues that can be sorted in the summer. Most of them are issues that can only be sorted in the summer. We're kind of left with what we've got between now and the end of the season, and for me it's just about embracing what's going to be a chaotic end to the season and embracing this Celtic team that's limited in many ways but brilliant in so many others, in terms of like digging in and finding a way to win even when they're not at their best, like the weekend. I just think it's a joy to watch these winners keep winning, and we have so much to do between now and the end of the season. So I think generally that's where I come down on it. There's a lot to be worked on, but there's also a lot to be really positive about. And I mean, winning a double would be pretty positive, I would say. We'll all be very happy at the end of the season. And Saturday was a big step towards winning a double. As much as I say, it wasn't perfect in any way, the performance. The team got the job done. We're into the cup final. And to be honest, at the end of the season, if we have won a double, that's all that will really matter. You won't really think about Saturday much. Now, it would hardly be a dramatic Celtic weekend without major referee/VAR decisions to discuss. So let's just go through them. There are 3 in this game, probably 2, but I just want to raise the third one as well and then very quickly shoot it down. That is the one I'm seeing about Kyogo apparently having fouled Angus MacDonald in the lead up to our opening goal. And comparisons from a certain Glasgow-based club likening it to the Cyril Dessers challenge on Gustav Lagerbielke in the first derby of the season. Very different incidents for me. The one on Saturday isn't a foul. Kyogo comes across and clearly gets his foot on the ball. It wasn't even close to a foul for me. It was just typical tenacious hard work from Kyogo, and while he kind of really badly fluffed the opportunity, it was great to see Kuhn up and just able to slot it into the empty net. So never a foul for me. Incident 2 just before half time, a bit more of a debate to be had here. I think Liam Scales handballs the ball after a kind of flick inside from Bojan Miovski, who, by the way, I thought was excellent again. I don't think he'll move to Celtic at this stage. He'll probably go into a European team, maybe someone in Italy, something like that. But I thought he was excellent again. But in terms of this incident, I think it's a foul in terms of Scales having handballed it. The big question is whether it's inside the box or not. And I don't think the footage is conclusive. Now, obviously, if he has handballed it on the line, that's classed as being inside the box. I just think it's extremely difficult to tell from the footage. To me, it's perhaps just outside based on that, but I'm happy to admit that I probably would lean that way. I guess it would probably have had to have been a clear and obvious error from Don Robertson not to give the penalty for VAR to actually really intervene and send them over to the monitor, etc. So I can only assume that because they can't tell for sure, they can't say it's clear and obvious. And to be fair, that's what you look for from VAR. I think VAR's having too much of an impact, re-refereeing games, etc. And I think in this occasion they probably made the right decision. But I'm happy to admit that Aberdeen fans may be screaming that was inside the box. And as I say, I think it's a 50-50 call. The third one that comes near the start of the second half of extra time is by far the most contentious. It's the one you'll have seen posted about probably the most. Cameron Carter-Vickers on Junior Hoylett. So pretty clearly I think it's a foul from Carter-Vickers on Hoylett. It's one of those where he doesn't really know where the Canadian is, catches the back of his leg. It's a stonewaller. Kind of couldn't believe that a penalty wasn't actually given at that stage, although it did seem like Don Robertson had pointed to the spot, and then he very quickly actually kind of points away to suggest that it's a free kick. And it turns out that he's actually given a free kick to Celtic for a kind of challenge from Hoylett on Alistair Johnson a few seconds earlier. It's a kind of header. Hoylett goes up, perhaps a foul. I think, maybe a fair chance it's a foul. Johnson goes down, doesn't get up. The difficulty I've got with this is, if that's what Don Robertson is given, why does he wait probably 3, 4, 5 seconds until the Carter Vickers Hoylett incidents happened to point back the other way? I thought that was really strange. Don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely delighted how that played out. And as I say, perhaps could have been a foul from Hoylett on Johnston. I think it's a 50-50. Some of you might feel it's a definite foul. I'll just be honest and say, I think potentially we got away with one there. And that's just, me trying to be honest. I think it's fine to say that. Again, I think lots of you will probably disagree with that. That's just how I feel. Carter Vickers feels he got away with one. I'm not going to spend ages going on about decisions that go for Celtic. We'll spend more of our time going on about ones that go against us probably, but certainly we've earned a bit of luck if we got that based on some of the ones that have gone against us this season. But yeah, that's my take on it. That's the kind of VAR incidents out of the way. I could probably have done this whole video on the penalty shootout. I thought we took our penalties really well, Joe Hart aside. He said that himself after the game. At the time, I was pretty stunned that Hart was sent up to take the final one. Listening to some of the interviews after the game, James Forrest in particular, I don't think it was a massive surprise to the players. I think Joe Hart's probably taken some in training, maybe for a number of years now at Celtic. It's always been in people's mind. We've obviously not had a penalty shootout since Hart's been at the club up until the weekend, so maybe it's always been a thought of, Hart will take one. We also had a lot of our kind of penalty takers off the pitch at that stage. I mean, James Forrest literally came off 20 seconds before Aberdeen's equaliser to make it 3-3. I think Naropski came on for him. So at that stage I was a bit worried, but I think credit to the team, they took their penalties really well. I know a lot of people call it, penalty shootouts a lottery, and maybe they are to an extent. I think Stevie will say that in a clip we're about to hear, just slagging him off. But I personally think there's far more to penalty shootouts than that. I think it's real metal the players have to show in moments like that. And I thought we really, certainly the outfielders, took their penalties really, really well. Paulo Bernardo's maybe the only one where he got away with it, but the rest, Iwata, Johnston, O'Reilly, Ida, Palma, I'm not sure if I'm missing anyone. Really, really good penalties. And yeah, obviously Joe Hart, the hero. And mega prediction time, if you're ready for this. I've got a weird feeling that won't be the final penalty shootout of the season. Really weird feeling. This, I saw my good pal John McGinley tweeting about the Joe Hart retirement tour being box office, and it so clearly is. And I just sense the final game of his career, 25th of May against Rangers, he's going to have a massive say in that one way or another. And I can't shift the feeling that match is going to go to penalty kicks. That would be, if Saturday was bad, that would be pretty horrendous. Joe Hart, clearly the big hero, despite that missed penalty. You can hear that from the reaction he got after the game from the Celtic support, singing his name. As I say, despite missing the big chance, he redeemed himself with that penalty save right at the end, and he's clearly just absolutely adored by the Celtic support right now. So a pretty mad match. There's much to ponder, but this team are scrapping right now, and let's just embrace it between now and the end of the season, and who knows, a few trophies may be to follow. Back to Joe Hart in a wee second. First of all, let's just hear a pretty lengthy review of the match from Stevie from the top of the Hampden steps shortly after full time.
Hi Hamish, a video as requested. Right after that game, Celtic 3, Aberdeen 3, we did win in penalties. Nerve-wracking. It shouldn't have went to penalties. I'm just going to shoot there and say that should never have been the case. It should have been done in 90 minutes when we went 2-1 up. Should have been able to see that out. the control that we lost in the last 10 minutes, the person who's recording this, the person I was sitting next to, actually said Aberdeen are going to get a major chance in the last 10. We saw that. Junior Hoylett cuts in. Liam Scales will go into very quickly soon, loses his man, and it's 2 each in the extra time. That game, it was just so chaotic and frantic and end to end. It reminded me a lot of the 2013 one against Dundee United, Neil Lennon's third season team. You'll probably remember it. It was at Hampden 2 in a semi-final. Only thing missing for that game was penalties, but it was so chaotic again, end to end in that match. And you know, John Daly was a real handful, just like the day we saw with Bojan Miloski at times. Liam Scales, I thought, couldn't cope, although it was Cameron Carter-Vickers at fault from what I've seen in the first half. I've not seen any replays for the game. Couldn't get a signal at Hampden. So all I can say is, well done to the team. I mean, they are in the final and that's all that matters. We're not going to look back on this, Hamish, and say it's one of the ones, oh, how bad were Celtic and they scraped through it. At the end of the day, we are in the final and that's what matters, and that's what all we wanted. Serious concerns though over the, as I say, lack of control in the second half and also the second half extra time. It was massively concerning, I would say. The penalties, you know, again, it's a complete lottery at the game. Everybody round about me just wasn't sure what way it was going to go, Hamish. Aberdeen were, you know, just, you could say Aberdeen were probably going to be going through just as much as us. I don't think even the crowd helped because they were so tense and nervous, but there was a, you know, moment when Joe Hart was stepping up and everyone round about us, it was just, the question was why? It didn't make any sense, and you can turn around and say Joe Hart was great at a penalty in pre-season, but that's like pre-season, so that's not like an actual do or die game, semi-final in the Scottish Cup. Madness, and then he hits the post, and it was mad, like the reaction after it. And then to add insult into that, Iabata steps up and scores an absolute cracker. Yeah, at the end of the day, like, the team got through it. I felt some performances though were a miss, certainly for Liam Scales a lot of the time in that game. Like, if you look at I think the third goal came for just a hopeless head up the pitch. Instead of like putting it out or anything, he just heads it up, it goes to an Aberdeen player. The guy, again, cuts inside, and it's like the exact same type of goal as what we saw when we made it 2 each. But again, a lot of people see this thinking, Stevie, you've been far too critical on the team after you were gushing and praising them after the other night when I was doing the video when Rangers dropped points. I think maybe, just maybe, we've got to take a step back and remember where this team are. Yes, we're in a final and we're going for the title as well, but I've also got to maybe accept that this team were at the level, and certainly the standards aren't anywhere near what we were last season. We would have seen that game out no bother. You know, I'm thinking back to when we had Starfelt and CCV when we saw out the game against Rangers in the 1-0 semi-final, and you know, other than a 10-minute spell, we never looked at it, and a lot of boring. There was real control in that game. In that game there, it just really could have went either way. So I think my major one for you for doing a video in the week is Liam Scales. I think the Rotsky's got to come in and replace him. Hopefully he's fit enough to do so, because Liam Scales can't be starting in that title run in, and that's not anything bad about him. I know his limitations, but there was times in that game that I felt it was going to cost us. Thankfully it didn't. Like a lot of other Celtic fans all here, I'm just so happy that we're through. A lot of that game, it didn't seem as if it was going to be the case, and we're talking about getting to yet another final at Hampden. But well done to the team, and you know, well done to Joe Hart then, to redeemed himself for that miss with a fantastic save to put us through to the final. Again, I don't think any is gushing and going overboard, but all we wanted to see was Celtic in the final, and that is the general feeling among myself and the rest of the fans here. Total relief in the end. Let's analyse the performance later.
So that was Stevie. Big thanks to him for sending that in. Of course, check out GigPod, where Stevie's from. Link is in the description. We'll catch up with Stevie later in the week, and there'll be plenty to talk about there. Just on Joe Hart, before we return back to kind of current matters, he had a pretty big event at Celtic Park last night. It was an evening with Joe Hart, which took place at the Kerrydale Suite, and it was said to have been a really good night. Before the actual event, Hart actually spoke to Celtic fan media. Each outlet got a question to him. GigPod were there, and Stevie's been good enough to send on the audio from it. So here's the best of what Joe Hart had to say, and I would listen to this because I think there's a few pretty interesting bits.
Hi Joe, great to have you at Celtic Park. I think your experience coming in has kind of been very beneficial to a lot of the sort of team who are kind of younger. It would be quite sad to see you go for that reason. The question was, Are you interested in getting into goalkeeping coaching, whether that be here or somewhere else?
No, I've not taken any coaching badges. That was quite a conscious decision. I know that the coaching line is ingrained in a lot of people and maybe the management, but for me it just doesn't necessarily do it for me. I want to help, I want to give back, but I feel like there's different ways that I can help. I'll always be available to Celtic if they ever need to lean on me for anything that I can help with. I've made the manager aware of that, I've made the club aware of that, but in terms of physically coaching a specific team, that's not something that I'm looking to do.
Great, cheers.
Approaching 150 appearances over the last 3 years for Celtic.
Yeah.
Is there a moment that stands out for you personally that will be the standout moment in a Celtic jersey?
Well, I hope there's a few more moments to come, I really do. Last year was pretty special, stood at the end of the season with all 3 trophies. That was a special day and something that I really enjoyed, but genuinely there's been so many. I'm a guy who lives in the moment. Even yesterday was a special moment. It was a hell of a ride, and like I say, hopefully I'll be able to have this conversation in a couple of months' time, and I'll have a few more to kind of pick through and decide from.
Thank you.
Going back to when you made your debut, Joe, what advice would you, looking back now, give yourself? And when the move to Celtic came about, was it all about first team football coming towards the end of your career?
No. It wasn't just necessarily about first team football. It was about. I said it before. When I was at the point of coming here, I didn't know if I wanted to carry on in professional football anymore, and that's not because I was feeling sorry for myself, not because of I didn't think I was capable. I just didn't think there was a place for me to do what I love to do, and what I love to do is play football for someone who I can give my all to. And football is a business. It 100% is a business, and I probably felt that for not much of my career, but I probably felt that for 3 or 4 years when I was dotting around and kind of being at clubs and kind of not. And I was probably willing to leave it. I thought, I've done everything that I need to do, and I've been accepted for as long as this. But then the opportunity to come to a club like this, which was slightly unknown, but what I did know was really appealed to me. It's a club that you play for, you don't work for, you play for, and you integrate. And I wanted that opportunity, especially with having a young son who hasn't necessarily seen me play much football. When he came in to knowing 3 years old, everywhere we went, people knew who I were, but he didn't know why. So I wanted to dance in front of 60,000 and try and show him what I could do.
How are you feeling now that the season's trickling out and your retirement is approaching?
A question. Obviously, I've been asked a lot. I don't really feel any different, and I feel like for potentially a couple of months or maybe a couple of years, I'm probably still going to feel the same even when I finish. I'm so programmed to be in the mode that I'm in that I don't think I can just turn it off. I think it will take, like I say, it will take a long time. I think I'll still feel like a player in 2-3 years' time, maybe. I don't know, and but I'm not willing to kind of ease off. I want to be 100% and then deal with the madness after.
Are you confident that you can etch yourself into Celtic history one last time by winning?
I'm going to try. I'm going to do everything I possibly can. I'm really going to leave it all on the line, but that's what I've done my whole career, and sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't.
You came into Celtic having played at a lot of big clubs, Man City, you've been at Spurs, you've been sort of played in the Champions League, but is there anything sort of looking back that your previous expectations of Celtic, is there anything that in hindsight that you're looking back now that's maybe taking you by surprise about joining Celtic?
Not by surprise, but I've just been pleasantly surprised the whole way. So the boys that I spoke to, and anyone associated with Celtic when I was trying to get up here, the main line, all I kept hearing was, well, you don't know what it is until you're there. And by probably the 4th time of someone that I really respect saying it, I thought, you know what, I'm going to stop thinking. I'm just going to go and do exactly that. I'm going to just find out for myself. I do strongly remember Champions League anthem. So at City, when I was there, we had some bad relationships with UEFA, right?
Yeah.
So for a lot of my time, the Champions League anthem was booed, and you'll hear it booed. For reasons I think we're right. I think we were hard done by. There was something with Yaya and with Moscow. Anyway, that's by the by. And then the Champions League anthem, when it first got played, when we played Real Madrid, my whole body shook, like electricity went through me, my eyes welled up, and I was like, woof. But just the pure excitement and passion of the place all the time just makes me smile, makes me happy, and makes me grateful to be here.
Was there a specific moment that you could call back to that you, during your time at Celtic, that you felt you really started to fall in love with the club?
Do you know what? I think being part of the rebuild after COVID in terms of allocation in the stadium and realising, you know, the hunger for, I think it was maybe 30%, then it was 60%, and then when we finally had 100% in the stadium, knowing that could have been filled, I don't know how many times over, it was really, you know, really humbling. And I do love, I can't get away from Livy Away. I do love Livy Away. I think for everything that it is, you know, it's a plastic pitch, it's a tough game, but the fact that there's, you know, I think it's maybe 4/5 Celtic fans, and the atmosphere is electric, and it really does feel, you know, obviously this great place speaks for itself, but Livy Away, it will live long in my memory really fondly as well.
Great stuff there from Joe Hart. A big thanks to GigPod for sharing two, maybe three things that kind of stood out to me from that. His comment about saying that he'd always be there to help Celtic but wouldn't be going into coaching, I thought was interesting. Good insight there, because people had kind of wondered whether that's the route Joe Hart would go down. I wonder what he will do after his career. Punditry, perhaps. I think he'd be a really good pundit. He may decide to go there. He may decide to just do an Aaron Moy and just embrace lying on a lilo on a pool in the sunshine in Australia for the rest of his life. It's completely up to him. He's certainly earned whatever he decides to do. Two actual comments he made. The one about hearing the Champions League anthem in that first game of, you know, a return to the Champions League group stage, home to Real Madrid. The atmosphere that night was amazing, and that roar of approval at hearing the Champions League anthem back at Celtic Park. Clearly a big moment for Joe Hart. He's often quite guarded with these things. He very rarely wants to actually name the kind of moments that he loves. He's often very respectful of other clubs and comparing certain moments, and kind of always says, you know, I like to live in the moment. So I found it quite interesting that he picked out that Champions League anthem and his history with Man City and them not being fans of UEFA, and therefore the anthem getting booed quite roundly, but hearing approval at Celtic Park against Real Madrid being a big one. I think he said he was quite overcome at that moment, so that was great. And also his comments about Livingston away. I remember him speaking about that the first time we went there and we lost 1-0. I remember him saying, you know, the support that day, taking over an away stadium, was amazing, and that's clearly something he thinks about a fair bit when, you know, thinking about the size of Celtic, the fact that we're able to go to a ground like Livingston and as he said, have, you know, 85% of the stadium supporting us. So those were two really interesting bits. Obviously still get more to achieve, hopefully 2 more trophies to lift as well, but I just sense there's more drama to come with Joe Hart between the end now and the end of the season. If it's anything like Saturday, it's going to be pretty amazing. Final wee moment of the match I want to bring up, and you may have seen this posted about online. It was during half time of extra time, so we just had a lead at that stage. Brendan Rodgers caught on camera getting pretty annoyed towards kitman Stevie Wright. Now the players were all huddled together as they do, getting instructions etc. between the periods of extra time, and yet Wright, who is a face you're likely to know, was seen having a private conversation with Paulo Bernardo away from the group. Brendan Rodgers spotted this, charged over and clearly told Wright to move off and move away. Really not happy at that stage, Brendan Rodgers, though it must be said it kind of moved on quite quickly. The players were kind of looking over as well. I thought it was a really interesting moment, and the first time I've actually seen Brendan Rodgers, you know, visibly annoyed. And I think, you know, clearly he's the boss. And maybe Stevie Wright just needed reminded of that for a second. He's obviously been a great servant to Celtic as well through the years, but maybe just needed a wee reminder of who the boss was there. So yeah, I really loved that moment. We're now down to just 6 matches to go this season. We know all the details about them, apart from how they're actually going to go. It's just a fabulous end to the season in store. And for the team, you know, it really will be a case of just taking those matches one at a time. Just make sure we win away to Dundee next weekend and then move forward to Hearts after that. I think as supporters, it's all right to look at these 6 games and imagine the dream scenario where we win 2 glorious trophies. Certainly if we win those 2 matches against Rangers, we will almost certainly be looking at a double. So many games to get excited about there. They're all going to be huge. They're all pretty well spread out as well. I mean, this is going to take us, you know, over a month before that Scottish Cup final. But equally, you know, it's only really just over a month until that final match. So it's all going to be sorted out over pretty much the next month. But yeah, huge games, a couple of derbies in there. You know, games where we could potentially be winning the league, potentially lifting the league trophy, potentially winning the Scottish Cup. Yeah, on to Dundee next weekend. That promises to be a big afternoon of football as well on Sunday. So yeah, this is a kind of end to the season that really gets the blood pumping, and bring it on is my message. Finally, just want to give a shout out to the Celtic FC women who got a big result yesterday. They beat Hearts 5-0 at Celtic Park. I believe a crowd of around 3,000 got there as well to see that one. Really good stuff. Goals from Lucy Ashworth-Clifford, Tash Flint, and also a Murphy Agnew hat-trick did the business. Great afternoon for Murphy Agnew getting a hat-trick. We remain top of the SWPL, although it's pretty tight, and they're on for a double there as well because they play Rangers in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup next weekend. So it's all happening, it's all on the line. A great weekend all around. Thank you for tuning into this video, sticking with it, because there's been a hell of a lot happening, and I'll be back to do it all again tomorrow.